Commander Jinwoo Park floated outside the massive orbital station called Harmony's Gate. His spacesuit gleamed white against the black of space. Below him, Earth spun slowly, showing the lights of cities from 47 different alien species. Ships from across the galaxy came and went like busy insects around a hive. Jinwoo had done this repair work hundreds of times before. The navigation beacon on the station's outer ring needed a simple part replacement. It should have taken 30 minutes. He had already been out here for 20. "Control, this is Maintenance 7, he spoke into his helmet radio. "The beacon housing is more damaged than we thought. I need another 10 minutes. "Copy that, Maintenance 7, came the reply from inside the station. "Take your time. Traffic is light today." That was not true. Jinwoo could see at least 12 ships approaching Earth from different directions. A Vorthak diplomatic vessel was coming in fast from the outer system. 3 Kethari trading ships moved in formation toward the lunar ports. Even a massive Draknari cruiser hung in distant orbit, its crew probably on shore leave. But traffic was always heavy around Earth. The planet had become the center of everything important in the galaxy. Every species came here to trade, to talk, to solve problems. Humans had made their world the one place where everyone could meet safely. Jinwoo smiled as he worked. His daughter Sumin was starting university next week. She wanted to study alien languages, maybe become a translator like her mother. The family had saved for years to send her to the best school on Earth. Life was good. The Vorthak ship appeared suddenly in his peripheral vision. It was moving too fast and coming too close to the station. Jinwoo looked up from his work and felt his stomach drop. The ship was not slowing down. Its engines were firing at full power, pushing it directly toward his position. "Control, we have a problem," Jinwoo said quickly. "The Vorthak diplomatic ship is on a collision course with my position. Stand by, Maintenance 7. We're contacting the ship now." Jinwoo could hear the radio chatter as the station tried to reach the Vorthak vessel. There was no response. The ship kept coming. Its hull was dark blue with silver markings that showed it carried Ambassador Kethamar, one of the most important Vorthak leaders. "Vorthak vessel, this is Harmony's Gate Control. You are on a collision course with our maintenance worker. Please adjust your approach vector immediately." Still no response. The ship was now less than a kilometer away and still accelerating. Jinwoo could see individual windows on its hull. He began moving his hands quickly, trying to disconnect his tools and get back to the station. "Maintenance 7, get out of there now," Control shouted over the radio. But Jinwoo knew he would not make it. The Vorthak ship was too close and moving too fast. He stopped trying to escape and instead activated his emergency beacon. If he was going to die, at least his family would know what happened. "Tell my wife I love her," he said calmly into the radio. "Tell Sumin to study hard." The Vorthak ship struck Jinwoo's maintenance pod at full speed. The small vehicle exploded in a brief flash of light. Pieces of metal and plastic scattered in all directions. Where Commander Jinwoo Park had been working moments before, there was now only empty space and floating debris. The Vorthak ship continued toward the station, its navigation clearly malfunctioning. But emergency systems finally kicked in, and the vessel managed to stop just 50 meters from Harmony's Gate's outer hull. Inside the alien ship, Ambassador Kethamar was unconscious at his controls, a victim of some kind of technical failure. Down, on Earth, the news of Jinwoo's death spread quickly. His wife Yoonju received the notification while she was at work in the Seoul Central Translation Center. She sat in her chair for a long moment, staring at the message. Then she stood up, gathered her things, and walked out of the building without saying a word to anyone. All across Earth, something strange began to happen. Humans everywhere stopped what they were doing. They left their jobs, their schools, their meetings with alien visitors. They walked calmly through the streets of every city on the planet. But they were not walking randomly. They all seemed to know exactly where they were going. Dr. Minji Choi was in the middle of an important meeting with 3 different alien ambassadors when her assistant handed her a note. She read it quickly, then stood up from the table. "Gentlemen," she said to the surprised aliens, "I'm afraid this meeting is over." "But Prime Minister," protested the Kethari ambassador, "we haven't finished discussing the trade agreements." "No," Dr. Choi said simply. We haven't. And now we never will. She walked out of the room, leaving the 3 ambassadors sitting alone at the table. Within minutes, every human employee in the government building had also left. The alien visitors found themselves standing in empty hallways, confused and frightened. The same thing was happening everywhere. In New York, human workers walked out of alien-owned businesses. In Tokyo, human students left their classrooms in the middle of lessons. In London, human doctors stepped away from alien patients in the hospitals. None of them said goodbye. None of them explained what was happening. They all walked to specific places in their cities. Large, unmarked buildings that most aliens had never noticed before. Heavy doors that had always been locked suddenly opened. The humans went inside and disappeared. On Harmony's gate, the remaining human crew members gathered in the main control room. They worked quickly and efficiently, preparing the station for something. The alien crew members who tried to ask questions were politely ignored. "What's happening?" asked Commander Rilthek of the Draknari. "Where is everyone going?" Captain Yuna. Kim, the highest-ranking human still on the station, looked at him with sad eyes. "Home," she said simply. "We're all going home." "But this is your home," Riltek said, gesturing toward Earth below them. "No," Yuna replied. "This was our gift to you. And now the gift is being taken back." Within 6 hours of Jinwoo's death, every human on Earth had vanished into the unmarked buildings. The streets of every city were filled with confused aliens who had been left behind. Ships in orbit tried to contact Earth's government but received no response. Then Dr. Minji Choi appeared on every communication screen in the solar system. She stood in what looked like a simple room with white walls. Behind her, symbols that no alien had ever seen before glowed softly. "People of the galaxy," she said in a calm, clear voice. "One of our own has perished in orbit around our world. Commander Jinwoo Park died because of carelessness and malfunction. This cannot happen again. Effective immediately, Earth is closed to all non-human traffic. You have 24 hours to leave our system." The message ended, and then something impossible happened. A dome of pure energy began forming around Earth. It started as a shimmer in the upper atmosphere but quickly grew stronger and brighter. Within an hour, the entire planet was surrounded by a barrier that no instrument could penetrate. No radio signal could pass through it. No sensor could see beyond it. Earth had become invisible to the galaxy. And in orbit around the planet, every alien ship and station found itself being gently pushed away by an unknown force. No matter how powerful their engines were, they could not get closer than 1,000,000 kilometers to the barrier. The last time anyone had touched Earth was when Jinwoo Park died trying to keep the galaxy's meeting place safe and working. Now, no one could touch Earth at all. Ambassador Relthane of the Cathari had worked with humans for 30 years. She had learned their languages, eaten their food, and even attended human weddings. She thought she understood them better than most aliens did. But now, staring at the energy barrier around Earth, she realized she had understood nothing at all. "How is this possible?" she asked Captain Yuna Kim, who stood beside her on the observation deck of the research vessel Starlight. Yuna was one of only 43 humans who had been off-world when Earth closed itself. They were now the only humans the galaxy could still talk to. Yuna watched the barrier shimmer with colors that had no names. "I don't know," she said quietly. "We weren't told this would happen." "Your people didn't trust you with their plans?" Relthane asked, trying to keep the hurt out of her voice. "Our people didn't trust anyone with their plans," Yuna replied. "Not even us." The Starlight was one of 12 ships from different species that had come to study Earth's new barrier. For 3 weeks, they had tried everything. Powerful scanners could not see through the energy field. Radio messages bounced back without reaching the planet. Even physical objects were gently pushed away before they could touch the barrier. Dr. Korval, a Vorthak scientist, floated over to them. His species looked like tall, thin humans with gray skin and large eyes. He had been studying the barrier's energy patterns for days. "I have never seen anything like this," he said, his voice full of wonder and fear. The energy readings make no sense. According to our instruments, the barrier should not be able to exist. What do you mean? Relthane asked. The power required to maintain this field should be more than the total energy output of Earth's sun, Dr. Korval explained. But our sensors detect no power source. It's as if the barrier is maintaining itself from nothing. Engineer Do-Hyun Lee, one of the few humans still cooperating with the investigation, joined their conversation. He had been working on human space stations for 15 years and knew more about their technology than most aliens. Maybe the power source is somewhere we can't detect it, he suggested. But his voice did not sound convinced. Where could humans hide something that powerful? Asked Captain Threshmar, a Draknari officer who had been listening to their discussion. Do-Hyun was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised everyone. What if they didn't hide it? What if they moved it? Moved it where? Relthane asked. Underground. Deep underground. This was not a new idea. In the days after Earth had closed, several alien scientists had suggested that humans had built underground cities. It would explain how 12 billion people had disappeared so quickly, but no one had been able to prove it. We've scanned for underground structures, Dr. Korval said. The barrier blocks our sensors completely. Not from space, Do-Hyun said. But what about from the records we already have? He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's major cities. Look at this. For the past 100 years, humans have been doing an unusual amount of construction in every major city. They said it was for transportation tunnels and utility systems. The aliens gathered around the display as Do-Hyun highlighted construction projects in New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, and dozens of other cities. When seen together, the pattern was clear. Every major human settlement had been extensively modified over the past century. The construction permits are all public record, Do-Hyun continued. But look at the materials they ordered. They needed enough concrete and steel to build cities, not just tunnels. Maybe they were building cities, Yuna said slowly. Just not where we thought. Ambassador Relthane studied the data carefully. She had visited human cities many times and had never noticed anything unusual. But now that she thought about it, some things had always seemed odd. Human cities were remarkably quiet for places with so many people. Traffic was lighter than it should have been. Sometimes walking through downtown areas felt strangely empty. There's something else, Do-Hyun said. The buildings where humans disappeared. I've been checking their construction records. Every single one was built or heavily renovated in the past 50 years. What's special about 50 years? Asked Captain Threshmar. That's when humans made first contact with the Alteri Republic, Yuna said. The first non-human species to visit Earth. Dr. Korval's eyes widened. You think humans have been planning this since first contact? I think humans have been planning this since before first contact, Do-Hyun said quietly. This idea was difficult for the aliens to accept. It meant that everything they thought they knew about human society was wrong. For over a century, humans had presented themselves as open, welcoming, and eager to join galactic civilization. They had offered their world as neutral ground where all species could meet safely. But if Do-Hyun was right, it had all been a performance. While humans smiled and welcomed aliens to Earth, they had been secretly building something else entirely. Show me the power consumption records, Relthane said. Do-Hyun pulled up energy usage data for Earth's major cities. The numbers looked normal at first glance, but when he adjusted the display to show changes over time, a pattern emerged. Power consumption had been slowly increasing for decades, but the increase was happening in areas with no visible development. The extra power is going underground, he said. Has been for years. How much extra power? Dr. Korval asked. Do-Hyun calculated quickly. Enough to support a population of 12 billion people. The aliens looked at each other in shock. The implications were staggering. Humans had not just disappeared underground when Earth closed. They had been living underground for decades, maybe longer. The humans that aliens had met and worked with on the surface had been only a small part of the real human population. But why? Relthane asked. Why go to such trouble to hide from us? Captain Yuna Kim had been quiet during most of this discussion. Now she spoke and her voice was sad. Because we were afraid. Afraid of what? Of this, Yuna said, gesturing toward Earth's barrier. Of what would happen when someone finally decided that our world was expendable. No one thinks Earth is expendable, protested Captain Threshmar. Someone did, Yuna replied. Someone let their ship crash into Jinwu Park without even trying to avoid him. Someone decided that one human life was less important than their diplomatic mission. Ambassador Kethmar, the Vorthak whose ship had killed Jinwu, had been unconscious during the accident. His ship's navigation system had malfunctioned due to a software error. It was a genuine accident with no malicious intent. But Yuna was right. When the accident happened, no one had tried to save Jinwu. The Vorthak ship had not changed course. The station's emergency systems had not been fast enough. Everyone had assumed that the maintenance worker would get out of the way. No one had considered that he might not be able to. We always knew this day would come, Yuna continued, when someone would make a decision that put human lives at risk for the convenience of others, when someone would treat us as acceptable losses. It was an accident, Dr. Corville said. Yes, Yuna agreed. But it was an accident that happened because no one thought a human life was worth slowing down for. The aliens had no answer for this. Looking at the situation from the human perspective, they could see the point. Earth had become so important to galactic civilization that everyone took it for granted. Ships came and went without thinking about the humans who maintained the systems that made it all possible. Engineer Do-hyun added one more piece to the puzzle. There's something else you should know. The humans who lived on the surface, the ones you all knew and worked with. We volunteered for that job. What do you mean? Relthane asked. I mean, we knew we were the visible face of humanity. We knew that if something went wrong, we would be the ones at risk. We accepted that responsibility because someone had to do it. And now? Now our job is done, Do-hyun said simply. Earth is closed. The humans underground are safe. And those of us still out here get to decide what we want to do next. As if summoned by his words, Captain Yuna Kim received a message on her personal communicator. She read it quickly, and her expression changed. What is it? Relthane asked. Instructions from Earth, Yuna said. We're being recalled. You're leaving too? We're being given a choice, Yuna clarified. We can stay with the fleet and continue working with alien species, or we can go home. And if you choose to stay? Yuna looked out at Earth's shimmering barrier. Then we'll never see home again. The barrier doesn't open from the outside, it only opens from the inside. For the first time since Earth had closed, Ambassador Relthane understood the true scope of what humans had done. They had not just isolated their planet. They had forced every human in the galaxy to choose between their people and the rest of civilization. It was a choice that no one should have had to make, but it was a choice that humans had been preparing for their entire history with the galaxy. The First War started 3 months after Earth closed. Admiral Sunho Jang watched from the bridge of his ship as Draknari and Vorthak fleets faced each other across the Kepler system. Both species claimed the same mining rights, and without human mediators to solve the dispute, they had chosen to settle it with weapons. Sir, his communications officer reported, both fleets are requesting human assistance in the negotiations. Sunho almost laughed. Almost. Tell them that humans no longer provide mediation services. What should they do instead? Learn to talk to each other without us. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, 37 ships from both sides were destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Thousands of beings had died over mining rights to asteroids that neither side really needed. This was happening all across the galaxy. Without Earth as neutral ground, species that had been at peace for decades were returning to old conflicts. Trade disputes became shooting wars. Border disagreements led to system invasions. The Terran Alliance, which had kept peace between 47 different species for over a century, was falling apart. Dr. Sarah Vexney, a Cathari economist, published a report 6 months after Earth's closure that shocked the galaxy. She had calculated the economic impact of losing human involvement in galactic trade. Humans handled 63% of all interspecies commerce, she wrote. They provided translation services, legal mediation, banking systems, and shipping coordination for nearly every major trade route in the galaxy. Without these services, trade between different species became almost impossible. The Alteri could not communicate effectively with the Zephyrians. The Cathari legal system was incompatible with Draknari commercial law. Even simple transactions required weeks of negotiation and multiple intermediaries. Worse, humans had developed most of the technology that made faster-than-light travel safe and efficient. Their navigation systems were built into ships from dozens of different species. Their communication networks connected worlds across the galaxy. And now all of that technology was slowly failing. Engineer Hieri Nam, one of the humans still working with alien species, tried to explain the problem to a gathering of desperate alien leaders. Human technology was designed to receive regular updates from Earth, she told them. Software patches, navigation data, communication protocols. Without those updates, everything will stop working eventually. How long do we have? Asked Ambassador Trelthane. For basic functions, maybe 2 years. For complex systems like faster-than-light travel, 6 months at most. Can't you provide the updates? Hieri shook her head. The update systems are based on Earth. We don't have access to them anymore. Fleet Commander Zarkesh of the Draknari stood up angrily. This is extortion. Humans are holding the galaxy hostage. No, Hieri said calmly. Humans are simply not helping anymore. There's a difference. What difference? Zarkesh demanded. Extortion would mean we want something from you in return for our help. We don't want anything. We just want to be left alone. This was the hardest part for many alien species to understand. They kept expecting humans to make demands, to negotiate terms for reopening Earth. But no such demands came. Humans seemed genuinely uninterested in anything the galaxy had to offer. The few humans still in space, like Admiral Sunho Jang and Engineer Hieri Nam, were polite but distant. They would answer questions about human technology, but they would not help maintain it. They would explain why systems were failing, but they would not fix them. It's like they've already said goodbye, Relthane confided to Captain Yuna Kim during one of their increasingly rare conversations. Maybe we have, Yuna replied. You don't miss it? The connections, the cooperation, the sense of being part of something bigger? Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Do you know what I miss most? She finally said. What? I miss not having to worry that my people are going to be killed by careless accidents. Relthane could not argue with that. In the months since Earth's closure, she had read through hundreds of incident reports involving humans. Small accidents, navigation errors, equipment failures that had put human lives at risk. None of them had seemed important at the time. But seen together, they painted a picture of a species that had been constantly in danger while trying to help others. Humans had died in industrial accidents on alien worlds. They had been killed in ship collisions during rescue missions. They had contracted diseases while providing medical aid to species with incompatible biology. The galaxy had accepted these losses as the normal cost of doing business. But humans apparently had not. Meanwhile, the attempts to breach Earth's barrier continued. Several species had tried everything from massive energy weapons to exotic matter manipulation. Nothing worked. The barrier absorbed energy attacks without any visible effect. Physical objects were gently but firmly pushed away by forces that violated known physics. Dr. Korval, the Vorthak scientist, had assembled a team of the galaxy's best researchers to study the problem. They had made no progress in 8 months of intensive work. The barrier doesn't just block matter and energy, he reported to the Galactic Research Council. It seems to exist in a space that our science cannot reach. What does that mean? Asked Council Leader Morden. It means we are dealing with technology that is fundamentally beyond our understanding. We don't even know what questions to ask about it. This revelation had disturbing implications. If humans possessed technology so advanced that the rest of the galaxy could not comprehend it, why had they spent centuries pretending to be just another developing species? The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Wusung Kang, captain of the human deep space vessel Eternal Horizon, had been traveling in the outer galaxy when Earth closed. It took him 5 months to return to human space, and when he arrived, he requested a meeting with alien leaders. "I have a message from home," he announced. The meeting was held aboard a Cathari diplomatic vessel, since no human ships were allowing alien visitors anymore. Representatives from 12 species gathered to hear what Wusung had to say. "First," he began, "I want you to understand that what happened to Earth was not a punishment. It was a withdrawal. Humans have chosen to step back from galactic civilization." "Why?" asked Ambassador Relthane. "Because we realized that our role in the galaxy was not sustainable. We were doing too much work, taking too many risks, and receiving too little consideration in return. We appreciated human contributions," protested Fleet Commander Zarkesh. "Did you?" Wusung asked. "When was the last time any of your species offered to host galactic negotiations on your own worlds? When did any of you volunteer to maintain the communication networks that connect your societies? When did any of you risk your own people's lives to mediate conflicts between others?" The alien leaders were silent. The answer to all of Wusung's questions was the same: never. "Humans became the galaxy's service providers," Wusung continued. "You relied on us to solve your problems, maintain your technology, and risk our lives for your convenience. And when one of us died because of that arrangement, it became clear that the situation had to change. So you abandoned us," said Council. Leader Morden. "No. We graduated you." "What does that mean?" Wusung smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "It means you get to learn how to take care of yourselves, how to talk to each other without mediators, how to solve your own problems without human help. And if we can't, then you weren't ready to be part of a galactic civilization in the first place." The meeting ended with no agreement and no promises. Wusung returned to his ship and departed, for parts unknown. The alien leaders were left to face the growing chaos in their systems without human support. Some species tried to work together. The Cathari and Alteri managed to maintain peaceful relations and even developed new communication protocols. A few smaller species formed mutual aid agreements that helped them maintain their technology. But others, particularly the larger and more aggressive species, seemed incapable of cooperation. The Draknari and Vorthak continued their conflicts. The Zephyrians began expanding aggressively into systems that had been neutral territory. Several species simply withdrew from galactic affairs entirely, focusing on their home systems. Within a year of Earth's closure, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Trade routes that had operated for centuries were abandoned. Space stations that had served as meeting points for multiple species stood empty. Entire sectors had become dangerous to travel through as old conflicts reignited. And through it all, Earth remained hidden behind its impossible barrier, silent and unreachable. The 12 billion humans who had once served as the galaxy's peacekeepers and problem solvers were gone, leaving everyone else to figure out how to live without them. For some, this was a challenge they could meet. For others, it was proving to be impossible. But no one doubted anymore that humans had been more important to galactic civilization than anyone had realized. The question now was whether the galaxy could survive without them. Commander Wusung Kang was inspecting the damage to his ship when the message arrived. The Eternal Horizon had been caught in the crossfire of a Draknari Vorthak skirmish near the Rigel system. His crew was tired, his supplies were running low, and he was beginning to wonder if coming home had been a mistake. The message was audio only, transmitted on an old emergency frequency that most species had forgotten about. When Wusung heard the voice, he nearly dropped his repair tool. "Wusung, this is Minji Choi. If you're receiving this, you're close enough to home to hear us. We need to talk." Dr. Minji Choi had been Earth's prime minister when the planet closed. She was the woman who had announced humanity's withdrawal from galactic civilization. Hearing her voice again after 18 months of silence made Wusung's hand shake. The message included coordinates to a location in deep space far from any star system. It also contained a simple phrase that made no sense to anyone else who might intercept it. "The basement is ready for visitors." Wusung had grown up in Seoul. He knew what basements were, but Earth's cities had not had basements in over a century. The ground was too developed, too full of transport tunnels and utility systems. So what did the message mean? It took him 3 days to reach the coordinates. When he arrived, he found nothing but empty space. No ships, no stations, no sign that anyone had ever been there. But when he transmitted the recognition code that had been included in Minji's message, space itself seemed to unfold. A massive structure appeared out of nowhere. It was bigger than any space station Wusong had ever seen, shaped like a flower, with multiple arms extending from a central hub. The design was clearly human, but it incorporated engineering principles that were far beyond anything humans had publicly demonstrated. "Welcome home, Commander," came a familiar voice over his communication system. It was Captain Tae-hyun Lee, who had been Wusong's classmate at the Space Academy. "Please dock at Bay 7. There are people who want to talk to you." The docking bay was filled with humans that Wusong recognized. Scientists, engineers, and military officers who had supposedly been on Earth when the planet closed. But they were here, in deep space, on a station that should not have existed. "How is this possible?" he asked Taehyun as they walked through corridors that hummed with unknown technology. "It's a long story," Taehyun replied. "But the short version is that everything you thought you knew about human civilization was wrong." They entered a conference room where Dr. Minji Choi was waiting. She looked older than Wusong remembered, but her eyes were sharp and alert. Beside her sat Dr. Soo-young Park, a physicist who had supposedly died in a research accident 10 years earlier. "Sit down, Wusong," Minji said. "We have a lot to explain." "Start with how you're alive," Wusong said to Dr. Park. "I never died," she replied simply. "My death was staged so I could work on the deep projects without interference." "What? Deep projects?" Dr. Park activated a holographic display that showed Earth as Wusong had never seen it. The planet was surrounded by layers of energy that extended far beyond its atmosphere. But more importantly, the energy pattern showed that Earth itself was not entirely in normal space. 67 years ago, Dr. Park began, human scientists made contact with something unexpected. Not aliens from space, but humans from somewhere else entirely. The display changed to show two Earths, side by side, but separated by what looked like dimensional boundaries. "Parallel reality," Wusong asked. "Not parallel. Sequential. The Earth you know is what we call Earth Alpha, but there's another Earth, Earth Beta, where humans developed differently. They achieved advanced technology thousands of years ago. They've been watching our galaxy for centuries." Wusong felt his understanding of reality shifting beneath him. "You're saying there are two human civilizations?" "We're saying there's one human civilization with two parts," Minji corrected. "Earth Beta has been guiding Earth Alpha's development for generations. Every major breakthrough in human technology, every crucial decision about how to interact with alien species, was influenced by advice from Earth Beta, including the decision to close Earth." "Including that, yes. But the closure wasn't really about Jinwoo Park's death, though his sacrifice was real and meaningful. The closure was about implementing the next phase of a plan that's been in development for centuries." Dr. Park manipulated the display to show the underground cities that aliens had theorized about. But as Wusong looked closer, he realized they weren't underground at all. "Interdimensional," he breathed. "The underground cities are actually located in pocket dimensions that overlap with Earth's geography," Dr. Park explained. "When humans disappeared into those buildings, they weren't going down. They were going sideways into spaces that exist parallel to normal reality." "How is that possible?" "Earth Beta developed dimensional manipulation technology millennia ago. They've been slowly sharing it with Earth Alpha as our understanding advanced enough to handle it." Wusong tried to process this information. "So the humans who lived on Earth's surface were the public face of a civilization that was far more advanced than anyone knew," Minji finished. "We've been pretending to be a developing species, while actually being guided by the most advanced human culture in the galaxy. Why the pretense? Because the galaxy needed to develop certain social and technological capabilities before it could handle the truth about human advancement. We've been testing other species, guiding their growth, waiting for them to mature enough to join a truly advanced interstellar civilization. The implications were staggering. Everything Wusong had believed about human-alien relations was based on lies. Humans had not been junior partners in galactic civilization. They had been its secret architects. The test, he said slowly. Earth's closure was a test. Exactly. We needed to see how the galaxy would respond when humans stepped back. Would other species learn to cooperate? Would they respect our boundaries? Would they grow beyond their need for human mediation? And the results? Minji's expression was grim, mixed. Some species have surprised us with their adaptability. The Cathari and Alteri have shown real progress toward independent cooperation. A few smaller species have formed successful mutual aid agreements. But others have failed spectacularly, Dr. Park added. The Draknari and Vorthak have proven that they can't maintain peace without external enforcement. The Zephyrians have become aggressively expansionist. Several species have simply abandoned the effort to work with others entirely. So what happens now? Now we move to the final phase, Minji said. Humans return to open contact with the galaxy, but not as service providers or mediators. We return as what we've always been, the most advanced species in local space. Dr. Park showed him new images on the display, human ships that were sleek and powerful beyond anything aliens had ever seen, space stations that could exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. Earth Beta has been sharing more advanced technology with us during the closure period, she explained. We're now capable of enforcing peace in the galaxy rather than just facilitating it. Enforcing how? Watch. Dr. Park manipulated the display to show a real-time view of the Rigel system, where the Draknari-Vorthak conflict was still raging. With a few commands, she activated something that caused all the weapons on both fleets to simply stop working. We can disable any technology that humans originally helped develop, she said, which, as it turns out, includes most of the advanced systems that every species in the galaxy depends on. That's... Wusong struggled for words. Overwhelming? Yes, we know. That's why we've spent centuries easing the galaxy into the idea of human involvement. But the time for gradual introduction is over. What about the humans who chose to stay with alien fleets? Wusong asked. People like Captain Yuna Kim and Engineer Hyeri Nam. They'll be given the same choice as you, Minji said. Return to human space and join the new phase of our civilization, or remain with alien species as ambassadors and observers. And if I choose to stay with the aliens, then you'll never see true human space again. The dimensional barriers we've built aren't permeable from the outside. Only humans who commit fully to our civilization will have access to our real technology and knowledge. It was an impossible choice, but Wusong realized it was also an obvious one. The galaxy he had known was collapsing. Without human support, most alien civilizations were reverting to primitive conflicts and failed cooperation. But more than that, he was beginning to understand that he had never really known his own species. The humans he had grown up with, worked with, and served alongside had been playing roles in a larger story that was only now being revealed. There's one more thing you need to know, Dr. Park said. The barrier around Earth isn't permanent. In 36 hours, it's going to come down. When it does, the galaxy is going to see what human civilization actually looks like. And then every species in local space will have to decide what kind of relationship they want with humanity going forward. Because the days of us hiding our true capabilities are over. Wusong looked out the observation window at the stars beyond. Soon those stars would see humanity as it really was. Not the galaxy's helpful servants, but its most powerful inhabitants. The barrier around Earth began to fade exactly 36 hours after Commander Wusong Kang's meeting with Dr. Minji Choi. Every ship within 50 light-years of the Sol system detected the change immediately. The impossible energy field that had hidden humanity's homeworld for 18 months was dissolving like morning mist. Ambassador Relthane was aboard the Cathari research vessel Wisdom's Edge when it happened. She had been part of the team trying to understand the barrier since the day it appeared. Now, as her instruments finally began to penetrate Earth's atmosphere, she gasped at what they revealed. Earth was still there, but it was not the same planet that had disappeared behind the energy field. The surface was covered with structures that defied explanation, cities that seemed to float in the air without visible support, geometric patterns that stretched across entire continents, and rising from various points around the globe, massive spires that extended far into space. "Are you recording this?" she asked her science officer. "Yes, Ambassador, but our instruments are having trouble analyzing what they're seeing. The energy readings don't match anything in our databases." Captain Threshmar of the Draknari fleet had also detected the barrier's dissolution. His ships had been among the first to rush toward Earth when the energy field disappeared. But as they approached the planet, something unexpected happened. "Sir," reported his navigation officer, "we're receiving a transmission. From Earth. From everywhere. It's being broadcast on all frequencies simultaneously." The message appeared on every screen in the Draknari fleet. It showed a young human man in a simple white uniform, standing in front of what looked like a living wall of light. Behind him, shapes moved that might have been people or might have been something else entirely. "People of the galaxy," the man said in perfect Draknari, "I am President Youngmin Choi of the Human Confederation. I am speaking to you from New Geneva, our capital city." Similar messages were being broadcast to every ship and station in the galaxy, each in the appropriate language for the recipients. President Choi appeared to be speaking directly to each species in their own tongue. 18 months ago, we withdrew from galactic civilization following the death of Commander Jinwoo Park. That withdrawal was not punishment, but preparation. Today we return to open contact with the galaxy, but we do not return as the same humanity you once knew. The transmission changed to show Earth from orbit, but this was not the Earth that alien species remembered. The planet was surrounded by structures that existed partly in normal space and partly in dimensions that hurt to look at directly. Ships moved between these structures using principles that violated basic physics. During our time away, we have advanced our civilization beyond what was previously possible. We have mastered technologies that allow us to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can manipulate matter and energy at the quantum level. We can travel instantly between any points in the galaxy. On the bridge of wisdom's edge, Ambassador Relthane felt her understanding of reality crumble. "How is this possible?" she whispered. President Choi continued as if he had heard her question. "These capabilities are not new. Humans have possessed advanced technology for centuries. We chose to hide our true nature while we evaluated other species and guided their development toward greater cooperation." The transmission showed scenes from across the galaxy. Draknari and Vorthak fleets locked in combat. Zephyrian ships expanding aggressively into neutral territory. Former trade partners unable to communicate without human intermediaries. Some of you have used our absence to grow and learn. You have developed new forms of cooperation. You have found ways to solve conflicts without external mediation. You have proven that you can be trusted with greater responsibilities. Images appeared of Cathari and Alteri ships working together to maintain a space station. Smaller species, forming mutual defense agreements. Examples of successful cooperation that had emerged during Earth's closure. Others have demonstrated that you are not ready for true partnership with an advanced civilization. You have returned to primitive conflicts. You have proven incapable of maintaining peace without constant supervision. The scenes shifted to show the wars and disputes that had erupted across the galaxy. Ships destroyed over minor disagreements. Trade routes abandoned because species could not work together. The collapse of cooperative structures that humans had spent decades building. Today we offer the galaxy a choice. Those species that have shown growth, wisdom, and genuine commitment to cooperation will be invited to join a new form of interstellar civilization. You will have access to technologies and opportunities beyond your current imagination. The transmission showed impossible things. Ships that could exist in multiple star systems simultaneously. Planets whose environments could be controlled at will. Communication systems that connected minds directly across galactic distances. Those species that have proven unwilling or unable to cooperate will be left to develop at your own pace. You will not be harmed or interfered with, but neither will you have access to advanced human technology or guidance. Captain Threshamar tried to interrupt the transmission to demand clarification, but his communication systems would not respond to his commands. Like everyone else in the galaxy, he could only listen. "This is not negotiable," President Choi said firmly. "We are no longer asking for your cooperation or seeking your approval. We are telling you what we have decided." The transmission changed to show President Choi standing in front of what was clearly meant to be a memorial. Behind him, names in dozens of languages covered a wall that seemed to stretch forever. At the center, larger than the others, was the name Jinwoo Park. This memorial honors every being who has died in the cause of galactic cooperation. Commander Park's name is at the center not because his life was worth more than others, but because his death marked the end of one era and the beginning of another. President Choi's expression became solemn. "We built this memorial on the surface of Earth so that anyone who visits our world will understand the price that has been paid for the peace and prosperity you once enjoyed. No one will be allowed to forget that cooperation requires sacrifice, and that sacrifice must be honored." The view pulled back to show that the memorial covered an area the size of a small continent. It was clearly visible from orbit, a permanent reminder of the cost of galactic civilization. Species that wish to be considered for partnership with humanity have 30 standard days to demonstrate their commitment to genuine cooperation. You must resolve all current conflicts through negotiation. You must establish protocols for working with other species without human mediation. You must prove that you can maintain peace without external enforcement. Ambassador Relthane felt panic rising in her chest. 30 days was not enough time to undo decades of failed diplomacy. The Draknari and Vorthak had been fighting for months. The Zephyrians had occupied 3 neutral star systems. Dozens of smaller conflicts raged across the galaxy. Those who succeed will be contacted by human representatives and invited to participate in a new galactic confederation. Those who fail will be left to manage their own affairs independently. President Choi paused, and for a moment, his formal demeanor softened. "We do not make this choice lightly. Many of us have friends among your species. We have worked together, learned from each other, and built relationships that we value deeply." The transmission showed brief clips of humans and aliens working side by side, scientists collaborating on research projects, diplomats negotiating trade agreements, children of different species playing together on space stations. But Jinwoo Park died because someone decided that human lives were acceptable losses in the pursuit of other goals. We cannot allow that to happen again, and we will not continue to risk our people's safety to maintain a system that does not value their contributions. The formal tone returned as President Choi delivered his final message. "The choice is yours. Prove that you can build a civilization worthy of partnership with humanity, or accept that you are not yet ready for the responsibilities that such partnership requires." The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. But not for long. Within hours, frantic communications began flying between alien governments. The Cathari immediately sent messages to the Alteri, proposing emergency cooperation protocols. Several smaller species began forming rapid alliance agreements. The Draknari and Vorthak, faced with the prospect of being permanently excluded from advanced human technology, agreed to an immediate ceasefire. The Zephyrians began withdrawing from occupied territories. Not everyone was convinced that humanity's ultimatum was genuine. Some species believed it was an elaborate bluff designed to force cooperation. Others argued that humans could not possibly possess the advanced technology they had demonstrated. Those doubts were quickly resolved. Any ship that approached Earth without permission found its engines mysteriously failing. Weapon systems across the galaxy began experiencing technical difficulties whenever they were aimed at targets belonging to species that humans favored. Trade routes that had been disrupted by conflict suddenly became navigable again as unknown forces cleared away hazards and obstacles. Captain Taehyun Lee, now serving as humanity's primary ambassador to the galaxy,